CBDRockDust.com to another exciting episode for you. And as you guys saw, that last episode was all about rock dust. I'm here at one of the quarries that RockDustLocal.com sources from. And I mean, you can see I'm just standing on some rocks. There's all kinds of rocks in the wall. And this episode, I really wanted to get into, the sustainability of rock dust and using it. I know some of you guys in the last video commented it's not sustainable to be shipping rocks around the whole country, and you guys want to use like on-site resources to create fertility and all this kind of stuff. So once again, I have Tom Vanacore back with me here at the quarry where I'm checking out the scenes, and hey, let's show you guys around real quick. So as you guys can see in the quarry, they got all kinds of different heavy machinery, and this is the machine over here that actually grinds up these large chunks of rock here, and they make it into smaller pieces. And they make it into smaller pieces, and basically what they make when they make that is, they get different size of aggregates. So they could have like, 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and it all goes through different screens. And when they're busting up the rock, they create a lot of dust. And it's this rock dust is what we want to use for agriculture, which is basically a waste product of this industry of making different aggregate rocks for underneath roads, for landscaping, for decorating, and whatever else all these rocks go into making concrete and who knows what. So, the rock dust is a waste product that now you can use that is actually quite beneficial. So think of it like making compost. You make compost out of your food scraps, out of your yard trimmings, and then you put that back in the earth, and that's what they're doing here. They're making the large aggregates, and now we want to use the scraps of this industry, which in many cases actually go unused. They actually just get buried and they have to dispose of, which should be going onto all the lands and all the farms of the world to create higher quality crops. So in any case, let's get out of this side, because this is the side where they really mine it and grind it up. We're going to go to the other side that actually has the ground up, ready to use rock dust as well as other size aggregates, and get with Tom to talk more about the sustainability of using rock dust and why it is so beneficial, not only to your garden and to the health of your plants, but also to sequester carbon from the atmosphere and so many other things. So let's go ahead to the other side of the yard. So Tom, the biggest question I have for you that a lot of my viewers also have is like, how is rock dust sustainable? Because it's, as you guys saw, it's a mined product. There's, big machinery, they use dynamite, all kinds of stuff.
Well, first of all, you got to understand that in the way we're using most rock dust, it's going to be a byproduct from industrial minerals of one sort or another. In this case, they're construction aggregates. And so the fines that fall through the screens, their smallest screen size, end up in these big piles like this, and some of them are used for road sand in the winter, but much of it will go into fill. We've identified this material as we call it the St. George Black, which is it's a carbonaceous shale, and it has wonderful properties as a fertilizer. So it's sustainable to our methods because, one, it's a byproduct, so they're already making it. It's essentially a waste product or byproduct or a co-product. And two, we use it locally, so we'll deliver this directly from here as an 1/8 inch passing material screening directly to the farms, and saves the farms a lot of money. Our transport time is much less than other inputs by orders of magnitude, and it's going to go on and continue to work for many years. And also, this place coexists in the middle of agriculture. For instance, behind us is Golden Russet Farms, one of the premier organic farms in the country and in the United States, but more importantly in Vermont. And they do a lot with organic farming, and they're very aware of any potential contaminants or anything like that, and they have no problem coexisting next door to this mining operation. So it's a win-win for them. They don't need this rock dust because it basically makes up their soil as part of the bedrock. So it's a good local use of the economy, and we think it's a great use of a byproduct material and converting it into agricultural use.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the rock dusts that are available, especially if you source it from Tom, are waste products of another industry, like the mining industry. And Tom, I want to talk about, like, I say often that you can't burn with rock dust, But you know, that's with a good wide spectrum trace mineral rock dust you can't burn. But is it true that with this particular product, because every different crushed rock dust has different properties, and you know, what would happen if you actually added too much of this rock product to your garden?
Well, this particular rock dust has a high proportion of carbonates in it. There's calcium carbonates and calcium and magnesium carbonates, and these will tend to act like lime or liming. They also tend to be reactive, and there's precipitates that come out and will bind to other materials. You see some of the white. This material is a reactive material. It also has almost 5% carbon in it, in the form of organic carbon or elemental carbon. And so as a result, you have to treat it more specifically as a concentrate. It is a broad spectrum rock dust, but because it has these liming actions, because it has the carbonates in it, it needs to be treated more as a fertilizer for those particular attributes and less as a rock dust for remineralization. We use it with other rock dust such as the basalts. This particular geology is a clay-like material, so it satisfies your requirements of clay. So it has a lot of amazing benefits, and at almost 5% carbon, organic carbon, every time you use a ton of this stuff, you're putting in 5% of that is going to be in the form of carbon, which helps build soil carbon in this form.
So Tom, I wanted to ask you next about the carbon sequestration, aside from just, you know, if a rock dust actually has carbon in it, you're putting it in your ground. But aside from that, how does rock dust, you know, sequester carbon from the atmosphere? Because it's often thought that just by the biochar does that.
Well, certain rock dust, and we haven't done the test specifically with this rock dust, although I would hazard a guess that by increasing microbial activity and by creating the conditions of a positive plant growth, that this would have the effect of capturing carbon. But we do know that the basalt rock dust, as an example, will capture carbon by fixing carbon in the ground rather than allowing that carbon to escape at the end of the growing cycle in the form of CO2. That would be carbon dioxide. So rather than the carbon going off in the form of CO2 as a result of decomposition, it's going to be fixed in the form of carbonates or in the form of permanent residence of microbial populations or other living types of organisms in the soil, rather than it escaping to the atmosphere in the form of CO2. Nitrogen also, it will help fix nitrogen in the same way, whereas usually there's a lot of nitrogen loss, and that also will contribute to the greenhouse effect and global warming. So rock dust minerals by themselves are good, but in situ with microbial populations and carbon compounds, the total effect will be to capture carbon and to increase the function of the soil, to capture and build carbon in the soil rather than to lose it.
I mean, this is what we all need to do, and you guys are doing your small part by just having a garden, using rock dust, using the biochar, and more importantly, getting those microbes in there. So one of the things that I actually often talked about on my show is actually if you have trees, you know, you want a wood chip, you know, and feed your trees the wood chips. I'm now changing my recommendation now, because as I find new information, I change and let you guys know, hey, you know, I got better information now, I'm changing what I'm doing. So instead of just simply applying wood chips as your base underneath your trees and whatnot, I recommend now adding rock dust to the wood chips and then adding the mycorrhizal spores and other mushrooms to the wood chips, so that it all, you know, degrades faster and you don't get a lot of like off-gassing. So Tom, would this be a good thing to do, and why?
Yeah, I would suggest that that's a good combination, because you're building the three carbon, minerals, and microbes
At the same time, instead of just the carbon with like the wood chips alone.
Right. So the broad spectrum minerals will help feed those microbes, gives them the necessary food. Those microbes in turn will chelate while they're feasting on the minerals. They'll chelate those minerals, and essentially their manure or their waste is is a nutrient in the form that plants can assimilate. So that's a good way to get the minerals into a bioavailable form. And this particular rock dust, this black shale, the St. George Black, is the result of many years of settlement in a lagoon setting with algae on the top of almost a stagnant water situation without oxygen. So the carbon that's in the shells and the parts of the plant or these microorganisms that settle to the bottom is maintained, and that's why it builds this black clay-like geology. And deep in the earth, the methane and the gases are still retained, and that's caused a huge boom in the fossil fuel industry in the form of fractured gas, and they're taking it out of this sort of geology deep in the earth. This occurs at the surface where it's being mined for aggregates, and it's available to us in this form.
So Tom, let's talk about another big question I get a lot is like shipping rock dust around the world through, or in the U.S. anyways, through like the U.S. Postal Service. That's not sustainable. So you want to talk about the sustainability of shipping rock dust long distances, and how does rockdustlocal.com, have better solutions than that?
Well, Rockdust Local is the first and probably still the only company that does this regional sourcing of rock dust minerals. So what we're actually doing is reducing our transport time for vital nutrients. We think that these materials are needed by plants. They can be put on with crop synergists and other types of materials that will help assimilate these minerals. They go out as an insoluble form, which means that you're not going to lose your nutrients into the water supply. It's sustainable when it's done this way. Now, you talked about shipping rock dust across the country in flat rate boxes. That can be a problem, but you have to remember that packages are being moved every day of one sort and another, and if it takes an efficient use, we use the U.S. Postal Service and we love them for this. If it takes an efficient use of transport and an asset to move products such as this, across some distance, with other packages and other things that are going to be moved anyway, and it's going to do some good.
Yep.
Meaning that it's going to help ultimately not only sequester carbon, raise the nutrient content of food, but also improve the health of the population. This is, in the short term, this is a sacrifice that I think that we can make. Ultimately, we don't want to be transporting over great distances. We want to be localizing everything. Rockdust Local is moving in that direction by identifying local sources, and hopefully we won't have to be shipping across the country, and we're shipping much less than most every other nutrient input that goes into farms in the form of fossil fuel fertilizers. We move, most of our large truckload deliveries are within 50 miles of the source, and most of the fertilizer that's being transported into the Northeast comes from about 1,200 miles away. So we're actually going down the road towards sustainability. Ultimately, most of these heavy loads should be moved by rail or maritime assets rather than over the road. We're not there yet, but we can be in a short period of time if we decide as a people to change our habits. So we're trying to use local resources whenever possible.
Yeah, I always want to encourage you guys to get your rock dust locally whenever you can, and I know for a lot of you guys, you just can't find it. So Tom, why do you think that rock dust is not available in every nursery, every garden shop, or even every big box store?
Well, it's a practice. Rock dust for remineralization is a practice that's been around for many years, but it's not in the mainstream yet. People haven't realized that these are actually beneficial materials to use, and so we're not seeing a lot of the big box stores have any interest in it. The other thing is that we're trying to stay away from packaging and building a whole product line that's based on transport and packaging. So at some point, we hope that local nurseries or local garden centers will identify if they want us to help them doing supply, we will be happy to supply them. But we're really looking at a longer term project, which involves primarily providing these materials to professional growers, and as a service we're making these available to avid gardeners and people who are homesteading through the web sales. And that's something that we do, and we deliver at very minimum markups. Our costs are all in transport and handling, and we just think that it's important that people are able to go ahead and order online, and we'll deliver right to your door. It saves in the end a lot of resources in terms of custom packaging and going out and delivering to a box store, and then they're going to have it sit on their shelves and people are going to drive there. This way we're sort of cutting out the retailing side of it to the extent we can. Eventually you'll see these materials at local retail outlets, but I don't expect that to happen for a few years now.
That's quite sad, but on the same token, I think it's good that you now have access to these, because just when I started gardening like 5 years ago, most of the country couldn't get rock dust, and I found places like Tom and like Josh at Boogie Brew that supplies the rock dust and will ship it to you guys if you guys can't get it locally. Now,
sure.
Like Tom said, I believe that every nursery or rock yard that has aggregates should also have a big pile of rock dust. Yeah, they could source it through Tom to make sure they get some good stuff, because not all rock dust is created equal, and some of the stuff is not worth its weight in sand. And the other thing to remember is that if you do have acreage or a large farming area, like if I had like 10 acres, I would order like a truckload from Tom, because the price goes down significantly if you order larger loads than just getting a box. So I mean, if you're going to order like 15 boxes of rock dust delivered from Tom through like the U.S. Postal Service, he could deliver you 2,000 pounds for like the same price virtually. So I would also encourage you guys, if you guys have gardening clubs in your area, or people in your area, just get all together, get a big super tote of the rock dust, going all together, buy it, and then just distribute it amongst yourselves. It's gonna be far cheaper than buying any kind of bagged products, even at your local nursery. Plus, you're gonna get some of the highest quality rock dust that I've seen. So Tom, do you have any other comments on the sustainability of shipping rock dust, or using this, which is a waste product of one industry, in gardening, or any other caveats for people?
Sure. I think you were touching on an important end use, and that is the community-based gardening, whether it's your local CSA, which is community supported agriculture. If you know and you're a part of a CSA and you're interested in supporting nutrient dense food, you can get together and suggest to your growers that they contact us and we can deliver to them. Or if you're farming or have a community garden and you're part of a community gardening association and you're interested in having rock dust delivered, we will work with you and discount you for discounted deliveries delivered right to your plots. And we are also work with groups of growers now where we'll put together mixed truckloads of sacks of different types of rock dust and seed products and these crop synergists for the humates and bioflavonoids and things like that people really need for the whole food approach to farming. And we can do that effectively by really at a wholesale level. So if you can get together with other people, you can put together a group order, we can deliver a truckload to you anywhere in the country very effectively and much more affordably than going through catalog stores or retail outlets. So we're happy to do that. We're happy to work with community growing. And what that's doing is it's raising the nutrient content of your local food. That's the most important thing. That's the first step to independence and health of a community. It's in their food supply. And we want to change the paradigm for the whole national food chain, which is transporting food from one end of the country to another, bringing food up from Mexico or from other places. This is completely unnecessary. It's going in the wrong direction, and we'd like to reverse that by supporting community-based farming and using community-based resources or regional resources such as rock dust. It fits right into that. It's a really sustainable approach, and I think it's necessary. And in the meantime, we're also starting to address these critical issues such as climate change and global warming. So those are things that we can all do together, and we're looking forward to working with your folks and other for people wherever they are.
Awesome, Tom. Yeah, so I mean, rock dust is just one of the many answers of what I like to call the new agriculture and what needs to happen in industry and also just at your home so you can have the highest quality food. And that's why I garden. You know, I don't garden to be the most sustainable, although me gardening and growing my own food is more sustainable than virtually every other American. You know, yeah, I import some locally sourced rock dust, but you know, I believe I do this for my health, right? I almost lost my life, and until you almost lose your life, you don't really get serious about taking your health as a main priority in your life. And that's why I use rock dust, because I know I'm gonna get the highest quality nutrition, and the food's gonna taste better, and we're gonna eat more of it. And I know a lot of you guys, got kids especially, that don't eat their vegetables. And maybe if you use rock dust, they're gonna like their vegetables more because they're gonna be, oh my God, these are really good vegetables. And then you're not gonna wanna buy the crap at the store anymore. And that's a big problem for me. So in any case, I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode today with Tom visiting the quarry. It was really fun, you know, hanging out here and seeing how all this stuff is produced and all this kind of stuff. If you like this video with Tom, please give me a thumbs up to let me know. I'll do more videos with Tom in the future. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button down below. I got more episodes coming up on all aspects so that you guys could grow food at home. And be sure to check my past episodes now. I have over 1,100 episodes on all aspects of gardening so that you can grow the most nutrient-dense, high-quality fruits and vegetables at home for you and your family. Also, be sure to check that link down below to visit Rockdust Local, the special GYG, Growing Your Greens discount that you won't get anywhere else, 15% off certain products that Tom's offering, so you're gonna get it at the lowest price that he has online. So once again, this is John Kohler coming out here from beautiful Vermont, from growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep on growing. All right, this is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and I find myself today sitting on a tractor here in the middle of Vermont, a place that I'd never probably thought I'd visit in my life, being from the West Coast, growing up and raised in California. Here in the middle of